Yeah, Shalom Israel. For a start, we want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, the Harakah Kadash, double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel, who rule and teach all, to the Akim and the highways and byways, and those pushing this word in truth and sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. Now, I tried to do this lesson earlier on, and the audio when I played the YouTube wasn't working, so hopefully it's sorted out now. It should be working, so if anyone can let me know if they're not hearing anything from the YouTube clips that I play, please let me know. But yeah, so as the title says, let's look at the mark of the B, the MOTB. And at Yahweh's Messengers, we teach that the MOTB is the RFID chip. And when you look at the elders and apostles at GMS, one elder I like to go to and recommend is GMS Fear the Most High 7. What the elder does do, and we've done a few lessons on here as well, is show you how the foundation for this is coming in. But you still have, a few groups out there who want to teach that the MOTB is like an embargo, something along those lines. I'm going to play a clip anyway of one of these groups, and it's one of their recent videos. But you're going to see that there's issues with the understanding. And so what I want to do is play what they say is the MOTB and just go through it.
So this is Ezekiel chapter 9 and 4. And the Most High said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abomination that be done in the midst thereof.
Now, we understand that this is a different mark compared to what is spoken of in Revelation 13. When you read the scriptures, you have to be able to discern between what is being said. And, the mark that's being put on the people that sigh and cry, the ones that sigh and cry, would be a mark of exemption. And what will they be doing to get that mark of exemption? They'll be sighing and crying, for righteousness, meaning they'll be keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. And this is a different mark. But in all of that, at the same time, it is something that you still have to be doing. Yeah. So let's go through this anyway.
So now this is my question onto y'all. Is this a literal mark that the Lord is saying to go out and put on everybody's forehead? Because that's what the Catholic Church does. Catholic Church puts a mark on your forehead for Ash Wednesday. They make a cross with burnt ashes from palms. You understand? And put that on your forehead. Is that the mark? Is it a literal mark? This is how the Lord knows? Because you got an ashy forehead? Let me see what y'all saying in the chat. What's this mark that the Lord put? This brother said Cyclops. You crazy. They saying no, it's the works that you do.
Excuse me.
You understand? So
now, what is you saying this mark is the works that you do? Yeah, meaning you'll be keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. That's showing the difference between you and those that's not signed for righteousness, signed and crying for righteousness. But in the same breath, when it comes to the MOTB that we read about in Revelation 13, it is still something that you as an individual have to do. The mark in Ezekiel 9 and 6, it pertains to an individual. But then you'll see they're trying to link up this mark with the mark in Revelation 13. But then from it being something that an individual has to do in Ezekiel 9 and 6, in Revelation 13, then it becomes something that the nation is, you'll see it for yourself. It doesn't really make sense.
Works that we do. We keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and we teach other people to say so. And we keep that inside of our mind. You understand? Who are these people that's marked?
if you can let me know if you can hear the audio, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
You understand? These are the people that's designated and separated from everybody else in the world. Those that's keeping his commandments, those that's following his instruction.
Yeah, so he's saying those that separated from everybody else in the world, those that's keeping his commandments, those that's following his instructions. So that's basically talking about individuals that's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments.
You see, ain't nobody want to make that a microchip. Nobody.
Because that mark in Ezekiel 9 and 6 has nothing to do with the microchip. Like it says, it will be those that are keeping the law, statutes, and commandments.
Now let's go back to Revelations, the 13th chapter.
Yeah, further up, further.
And we're going to reread verse 16. And causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead.
So remember, he just said in Ezekiel 9 and 6, those that's receiving the mark are those that's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. So these are individuals. It says separate from everybody else that's not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. So listen to what he says now.
So now what is this mark that goes inside your forehead? This is the philosophies of the beast. If you're marked by the Lord, you understand, in his forehead, that means you have what? The Lord's knowledge. That means,
but even when you take the chip, you're still dealing with Esau's knowledge, because he's telling you this is how things go. But it's something physically that you have to do, that you have to take.
You have the Most High's instruction. All these answers that y'all were given, the knowledge, I'm reading right now, the knowledge, the thoughts, wisdom, his commandments, all of these things that you keep inside your head. This is how the Lord has marked you. This is what you put inside you. So now what if the beast marked you? Then you have his philosophy.
Yeah, and
If
just like the said there, it says, like it says, understanding the mark in, and that I'm assuming is Ezekiel 9, is a spiritual mark. Yeah. And that's those that's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. The Most High will put an exemption upon you. Says it will make sense that a carnal man being Esau will deal with a physical mark. Yeah.
If the beast marks you, then guess what? Now you think, once again, it's Pride Month. Homosexuality is a alternative lifestyle. Now you think you can eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. Now you think the laws are done away with. You understand? What else is marks of the beast? You understand? All
other marks would be you taking the RFID chip. That would be another form of the mark. And this is the mark that's in the long run is going to stop you from buying and selling. You being taken on their homosexuality, whatever it is they do, that's not going to prevent you from doing what the scripture says, which is buying or selling. And he tries to explain that, and you're going to see the issues in that overall.
All their religions, every single one of them is a mark of the beast. Now, in context, we're talking about things that.
And the thing is, let's drop that back again. Listen.
Reread verse 16. And causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So now what is this mark that goes inside your forehead? This is the philosophies of the beast. If you're marked by the Lord, you understand, in his forehead, that means you have what? The Lord's knowledge. That means you have the Most High's instruction. All these answers that y'all were given, the knowledge, I'm reading right now, the knowledge, the thoughts, wisdom, his commandments, all of these things that you keep inside your head. This is how the Lord has marked you. This is what you put inside you.
Yeah, but even though you put this inside you, it's something you have to physically do. Yeah, the scripture says, be ye a doer of the word and not hearer only. So whatever knowledge the Most High gives you is something you have to physically act out.
So now what if the beast marked you? Then you have his philosophy. If the beast marks you, then guess what? Now you think, once again, it's Pride Month. Homosexuality is a alternative lifestyle. Now you think you can eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. Now you think the laws are done away with. You understand? What else is marks of the beast? You understand? All their religions.
So going by that, it says all their religions is also the marks of the beast. So, you know, the brother made another comment. Says, so going by his logic, we've all received the MOTB already, and that will mean the blood of Yahushua is of none effect. But just to clarify that, we go to actually I'll use this Revelation 14. Yeah, let's see what the scripture says about that. Because I grew up in Christianity, and if that is the mark of the beast, then really it's a wrap for me. Yeah, Revelation 14 in verse 9 says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. So I grew up in the church. You know, I used to partake in things pertaining to the church, the ideology, so on and so forth. That means that I've received the mark of the beast. So it says, if any man receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, because I used to practice that. Yet the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So really and truly, going by his understanding, it's a wrap for me. Yeah, there's no repentance for me at all. Showing you that cannot be the mark. Yeah, many of our people grew up in Christianity.
Every single one of them is a mark of the beast. Now, in context, we're talking about the things that this specific beast does. But remember, all the heathens are beasts of the field. But if we were conquered by Buddhism, then it would be Buddhism. You understand? It would be, what do you call it? Islam.
And, you know, those are the things that our people are big in today, Christianity and Islam. So that means they've got the mark and there's no repentance for them.
All of these are heathen philosophies that go inside your mind. All right. Verse 16. And he causeth all, both small and rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell,
now this is the
save he that had the mark. Or
so this is how he's gonna listen to how he explains now the buying and selling part. Because remember, initially when he read Ezekiel 9 and 6, he says, you know, some people will be keeping the laws and some people won't. Yeah. But then when it comes to the mark now, he's going to make it a universal thing.
But the name of the beast or the number of his name. So now let's talk about buying and selling when it comes down to this mark. So now, in this chapter so far, right, have we been talking about individuals or have we been talking about nations?
And initially, when he started off with Ezekiel 9 and 6, he was talking about individual because he said some will be keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and some weren't. So that's individuals. But now, all of a sudden, he's going to switch it up to nations.
I'm going to give y'all a second to answer. Are we talking about something on a nationalistic scale? Because remember, we're talking about great and small. So are we talking about just, you know, some random cat, or have we been talking on the what is it, the micro and the macro? You understand? The large portion of it.
And there's a point I just want to make as well, going back to Revelation 14. Yeah, because like I said, I grew up a Christian. I grew up in that religion. Some of our people have grown up in Islam. Yeah, but this is verse 11, Revelation 14 and 11 says, and the smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who receive Slakia, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So that means us having been in Christianity, having been in Islam, or whatever else it is, you've received this mark. Yeah, you've received this mark. That means there's no hope for you. And we know once you receive the mark, That's it. It's a done deal. Showing you what he's saying cannot be the mark of the beast.
Right here, that's right. Nations. We're talking about nations. So our nation right now, right, Israel, what do we produce as a nation? Right? Like if blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians are the real Jews, are the real Israelites, right? I see you, Niche TV, nations, mighty and weak, right? So if we are the real Jews, what does our nation sell? What does our nation produce? And then after this, I'm gonna get you a precept to show.
So now he's going from individual, as he did in Ezekiel 9, to making it a national thing.
You what buying and selling really is. So just think about what we produce. James Brown, you said righteousness, but okay, that's not, you can't sell righteousness on the market. You know what I'm saying? So this is talking about, you understand, buying and selling. We're talking about trade and commerce. I'll give y'all a second to answer. In the oppression, nothing. In our current state, free labor in prisons. Okay, Denny's, here's the thing though. We're not benefiting from that. America is. Chantel Love, you got it right. Nothing. You understand? AWOL, you got it right too. We buy everybody else's stuff. So we're not on the world market. We don't have international trade. We don't have you know, like we're not producing steel. We don't have a gross domestic product. We don't have like a number one exported item that we can put out. You understand? Like our nation is destroyed, but there are nations that do. So when America comes around, right? When America, France, Britain, you know what I'm saying? Any of these nations, right?
So even going by that understanding, if our nation is destroyed and we can't buy or sell, that means that none of our people be taking this mark then. You see the problem? 1 minute is if you've been into Christianity, Islam, and all these other stuff, that's the mark. But now when it comes to buy or sell, you know, it's a nation thing. This is actually, let me play some more, then I'll
when they make war with somebody, what's one of the first things they do when they make war? So let's go into the past, right? So let's say one country wants to attack a city. What's the first thing they do to that city? I'm gonna give y'all a second to answer.
Gosh. So this is where it goes into the embargo.
I'm gonna invite Raquel on stage. I see you raised your hand.
So I can forward this a bit.
Okay. Aisha H and AWOL, y'all are on it. Omar, Muhammad, Lewis, y'all are all on it, right? So they take their resources. What do? Yes, I want to make him a moderator. So what they do is they lay siege on the city. And when they lay siege on the city, they stop all commerce and all trade that's going in and going out.
See, so he's basically saying that you not being able to buy or sell is dealing with an embargo. Now, this is precept I want to bring up. This is because that will be the heads of your government that's doing that for you, yeah? 2. So this is Philippians 2 and verse 12. It says, "Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So if someone is like your government, for instance, is the one that's dictating whether we're able to buy or sell, yeah, how is that how's the Most High going to hold you responsible for that? Yeah, if you have to work out your own salvation, this is an individual choice, just like in Ezekiel 9:6, the men that sigh and cry for righteousness, that was an individual choice that these people had to do. But now when it comes to buying or selling, it's your heads of government that can make that decisions for you. Doesn't make sense. So I'm going to read it. Revelation 13. I'll show you how you're going to be able to make that individual choice. And he doeth great, so like 13:16. And he causeth all, both small and great. This is not great countries and small countries. This is individual. Yeah. Rich and poor, free and bond. How? To receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So check this video here now. Yeah, because as we say, that mark is dealing with the RFID chip, which is something which you physically have to take yourself. And it will, yeah, once it's spread out universally, prevent you from buying or selling as an individual. Yeah. Let me play this now.
China is pushing ahead into a cashless society. It's creating a new digital currency to replace paper money and coins. It will also give the Communist Party total knowledge.
And like I said before, what's happening? They're laying certain foundations in place for what is coming for the RFID chip. And this is one of those foundations being laid in place. Yeah, the CBDC.
Of how the Chinese people are spending their money. And that opens the door for unprecedented government control.
And the thing about it, yeah, this channel here is called the 700 Club. I don't believe this is someone in the truth, but check out the title. China is setting up the world for the mark of the beast, the MOTB.
Thomas has the story.
The Chinese were the first in the world to invent paper money back in the 7th century. Now, more than 1400 years later, China is again on the cusp of creating a new form of government currency that some say could pose a serious economic threat to America and the West.
China is about to launch one of the most revolutionary financial projects in the world.
They're not cryptocurrencies. They're not so-called stable coins. In effect, they are the national physical currency of a country, just represented in a digital form.
Eric Bethel is the former U.S. executive director of the World Bank.
Bitcoin near record highs, crossing 23,000.
He says while the world fixates on private cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin,
The digital yuan isn't a payment system, it's actual money.
Beijing is busy building a digital version of its own currency, the yuan, also known as the renminbi, to control its citizens and eventually threaten the dominance of the US dollar.
They pretty much created all of the building blocks that will allow a central bank digital currency to flourish.
And Yahya Fanusi, a former economic and counterterrorism analyst in the CIA, says China's goal is to replace cash with a digital currency that's controlled by the communist government's central bank.
And they did, which they'll mention in this, when they had the Winter Olympics, they did do a trial on this digital currency.
China has said for a while that it expects to pretty much be a cashless society in the future. So the idea is that cash notes, coins will no longer be around, and that people will be using digital currency that's going to be in their wallets.
That digital currency will also be issued by the government bank, allowing what Congressman Michael McCaul, the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, says is unprecedented access to people's financial transactions.
This will give them data on behavior, on how they spend.
And giving Beijing the power to track that spending in real time.
there will be a point where the People's Bank of China is going to be able to peer inside of every single transaction that everyone does.
See, and this is dealing with individuals. Yeah, this is how you get to control the individual, how, whether they're able to buy or sell.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Which means if you are a human rights activist or a Christian, authorities can now use this new technology to punish you. If you engage in activities, they could
You hear that? If you're a human rights activist or even a Christian, yeah, it doesn't matter what you're into. Once this mark is put in place and it's universal, yeah, it will stop everyone, rich or poor, bond or free, because this is going to be the new form of currency. Yeah, a way of them tracking you, a way of them having total control over you, a way of them setting up their NWO, their New World Order.
consider anti-government.
This technological ability is something that the government has never had before. It always had to go to companies to say, okay, cut off this person. Now, the Chinese government, I think, with sort of the proverbial flip of a switch, can make people fall in line by cutting off their access to money.
Eventually, US and other foreign companies doing business in China will be required to use the government's new digital currency payment system.
There's a competitive issue. I'd say, even cyber.
So it says rich and poor. So not just the poor individual or the rich individual. Yeah, even got businesses, big people. Yeah, that this is going to be sanctioned on.
Security issues, privacy issues. You're handing over your data to the Chinese Communist Party by participating in this digital currency system.
The US dollar is the world's dominant reserve currency. China's renminbi is number 8. Beijing's ambition is to eventually supplant the dollar's global dominance with the digital yuan.
The big concern is internationally, especially for the US, is in the long term, this is an important step. This is what I would call a fintech, a financial technology development. And the issue is that China is thinking decades in advance. It's not thinking about the next 2 to 3 years, per se.
In June, the communist government handed out more than $6 million worth of its digital currency to its citizens as part of a series of trials around the country. The first kicked off in Beijing, allowing residents there to use 2 government bank apps to test digital payments. China then plans to make its big digital currency splash at the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics.
Yeah, which they did do. And the thing with once you set up under this system, yeah, they can track what you're doing in real time. Whereas paper money, they can't. Yeah, they don't even know what you're doing unless they get that information from your bank.
Now that the world's largest authoritarian regime has launched this first-of-a-kind sovereign digital currency, some in the US, like Congressman Mike Waltz, worry Beijing will use this form of payment to also skirt economic sanctions.
And you see, it says to scourge economic sanctions. What is he talking about earlier in the video? About embargoes, setting up embargoes on various countries. But with this in place, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If a country were to set an embargo and this is the form that they're using, it will scourge that. So this will be the universal form of the way we buy and sell. Now, I want to play this clip here on a lesson that I did, yeah, to explain more about the CBDC, to even show even more how they'll be able to control your buying and selling.
Means that, rightly, there is a good degree of anonymity and privacy over what John decides to spend his. Central bank cannot see what John spends his money on or when he spends it. And John's bank is under an obligation not to share details of his spending with anyone.
See, this is how things are at the moment. So your bank knows what you're spending, what you're buying it on. But those, at the top, the elites, they don't. Yeah, you being subjected to the RFID chip, then it's a different story.
This means that, rightly, there is a good degree of anonymity and privacy over what John decides to spend his money on. This, in turn, means that a government or central authority, such as the Bank of England, cannot directly restrict John when he uses his debit card, because it has no visibility of what John is doing with his money.
If John had paid for the present with £50 of cash, then the purchase would be completely anonymous. Nobody, including John's bank, would know what he had spent his money on. So cash transactions are truly anonymous, and debit card transactions have a high degree of anonymity because only your bank can know about them. So what is this new system? The name of the new system is called Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. It sometimes has other names, such as smart money. Here's how it works. Let's imagine that John, again, decides to buy his daughter a birthday present from Argos. His mobile phone has a smart money wallet or app on it, from which he pays £50 for the product.
And if you look at a lot of people now, what they're doing, they're paying for things but via apps on their mobile phone. You know, what they do is suck you in by, you know, making things quote unquote easier to do. But there's an ultimate goal behind that, which is what people ain't being privy to. They're not, you know, they're not grasping. This is why we bring out these things so that you can see it.
The app communicates directly with the central bank, the Bank of England, and the money is transferred from his digital wallet to Argos's digital wallet in less than a second. The transfer of funds occurs at the time of purchase, and the transaction is recorded and approved by a centralized computer system on a centralized blockchain. A blockchain is a special computer program that records information very reliably and cannot be amended. The centralized computer system runs continuously and can deal with hundreds of transactions per second as they occur throughout the entire economy, processing all of the public's purchases being made by millions of digital wallets. This sounds fantastic and is so much quicker and simpler than the old system. But there is a fundamental difference, which is that all transactions are centralized in real time as they happen. In other words, one system will be able to know about every single digital transaction in the economy as the transactions occur. This is the critical difference with the new digital monetary system that everyone needs to be aware of. All transactions are centralized in real time as they happen.
And this is how they're able to control your buying and selling.
The people who are planning this new system have made it clear that it would be useful, in their eyes, to use artificial intelligence algorithms in real time to block certain public transactions for a range of different reasons. So what does this mean for John? Let's just say there is another lockdown and the government want to stop the public moving about the country. With this new system, they could introduce a simple change. That would mean John's wallet would only work if he was located within a certain distance of his own home. Argos is 2 miles from John's house, and he decides to go and buy his daughter a birthday present. He attempts to pay £50 for the product with the app. The app communicates directly with the Bank of England's computer system, and the system rejects John's payment before it is made, because the system knows that John is 2 miles from his own home, and John's wallet has been limited to spending within just 1 mile. John cannot now buy anything unless he moves closer to his own home. His money is now useless if he wants to go anywhere. Why?
And look at this, it says eyes wide shut. Yeah, a good example of eyes wide shut.
Doesn't John just use cash? That would be a good solution for John, as long as cash is still in use. So
we'll come back to this.
The Chinese government convinces countries like Burma, Iran, North Korea, and others to do business in that Chinese digital currency. It'll also allow China and those countries to work around one of our most powerful tools, which is sanctions.
Based on history, Waltz believes China is only too happy to share the tech.
And that's something he was talking about, embargo. Let me see.
Once again, man, I want y'all to go and I want y'all to watch that Medici show. Because when you watch Medici the Magnificent, you'll see that that was the number one thing that they were always worried about with war and sieges. They said, well, the merchants are hurting. How do we put money back into people's pockets? because here's what I'm going to show you something about buying and trading. This is James chapter 4, verse 12. All right. James chapter, you know what? I'm just going to go straight to 13. All right. James chapter 4, verse 13. Go to now, ye that say today or tomorrow we will go into such a city and continue there a year and buy and sell and get gain. Buying and selling is not going to the store to get some Skittles or some chips or whatever the hell the case may be. Buying and selling is commerce. When you buy and when you sell, it's to get gain for a profit.
And you see, the problem with that is, like, I haven't got a business where I sell. So I go to someone who does, yeah? And we do business. They have what I want. I buy, they sell. It's not always on a big mass scale like it's trying to make out. The buying and selling is not dealing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as specific as it does. This is Revelation 13 and 16, and it calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor. It's not dealing with countries. It's dealing with individuals, free and bond. Yeah, free and bond. Let me quickly bring this out. Isaiah 42. Isaiah 42. Let me show you some of these bond. Yeah. Isaiah 42 and 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. So these are some of your bond people. So even those that's in prison houses, that'll be how they'll have to go about buying and selling. You know, they're trading, how they trade, how they buy.
And they do this on a global scale.
It's not talking necessarily just about a global scale. Yeah, it'll be global and the individual.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jamaica, right? At one time, Jamaica's largest export was bananas. Jamaica defaulted on a loan from the World Bank. So you know what the World Bank did? They said, you cannot sell bananas anymore. We're going to get our bananas from somewhere else.
But you know what? The individuals in the country can still go to the next man or woman who has a stall and can buy bananas from them. Yeah, you're not stopping the individual from buying. Yeah, but it says it calls it all, both small and great. This is Revelation 20. Revelation 20 and verse 4. It says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua, and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had he received his mark upon their foreheads. Yeah. So going back to what you're saying about the mark is Christianity or Islam, I'm doomed because I'd received that already. Yeah. I'm not in those now, but it's something which I had received. There's all in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years. Yeah. It says neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. Yeah, if you've been in Christianity, in Islam, it's something you had received at one point in time. Yeah, and you can't take the mark and come back from it, man. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, but I just wanted to touch on this because you still have people that are teaching that it's an embargo. And as you heard, he started off with it being an individual thing, the mark in Ezekiel 9. He didn't say that was like a global thing. Yeah, it's an individual thing. But then you come to Revelation 16. Now it's changed it to a global. Yeah, where someone else is making that decision for you. But how's the Most High going to hold you accountable for a decision that someone else does? Everyone everyone has to answer for their own work. What is that? I'll use this. says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Yeah. For the Most High shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And that's something which you have to do as an individual. You know what I'll go to. You to explain that better. This is Second Esdras 7. Let's start 6. Says, there's also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand and on the left hand a deep water, and only one path between them both, in between the fire and the water, so that there could but one man go there at once. So no one else is going to make you take this. This is something that you have to do. Yeah, that's a decision you have to make. No one's going to make that decision for you. You're going to have to do that for yourself. Yeah, if it's an embargo, then your government is making that decision for you. Yeah, everyone has to answer for their own sins. This is 2 Corinthians 5. Oops. Corinthians chapter 5. Verse 10. It says, for we all must appear before the judgment seat of Mashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he has done. Yeah, it's an individual. The walk is an individual walk. Yeah, the decisions we have to make, whether we take the mark or not, is an individual choice, whether it be good or bad. Yeah, and Christianity is not that mark. Islam is not that mark, so on and so forth. You receiving the RFID chip, which will then give you access to the various things they're putting in place, and one of them will be the ability to buy or sell. That will be you taking the mark. So with that, hopefully the lesson was edifying. I'm going to close out. I'm going to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Muharaka Kadash, Kwam Yasha'Allah.